BAM football for another week. Steve Allen away injured. I'm Warwick Whitmore, aka The Wok, filling in this week for Steve. Hopefully back in a couple of weeks' time. Joined as always by Michael Butner, Laurie McKenna. Boys, this week, BMW.
Yeah, BMW, I like it, Welcome. What a start. Fantastic, mate. Can't wait to get through this. It's been an exciting 4 weeks that we've had. Take it away, mate. You're on fire.
Well, a massive weekend in sport. I think we're living in bizarro world, boys. We've got the NRL trophy in Victoria, the AFL premiership living now in Sydney for 12 months. We'll start with NRL. Butts, what was your take on the game?
Oh, obviously, a tough game, very intense. We knew that was going to be the case with the two sides and the style of game that they played. The Storm absolutely just smothered the Bulldogs in what they did in defence. It was an enormous defensive, just phenomenal when you consider. It was 14-4 at half-time, and that's the way it stayed. So not a lot of cheering for the fans, but still very entertaining in the fact that, the Bulldogs created plenty of opportunities, but it was just that scramble from the Storm, which is just phenomenal. And Laurie, you touched on it yourself. Yeah. Just seeing how well they defended.
Well, I really enjoyed, especially the second half, just watching as a coach, how tight it was, how well the Melbourne Storm defence were. They were brilliant. They never looked at giving a try away. I just enjoyed it. Two teams working really hard, cancelling each other out, and thought it was a really good game.
Melbourne did that right through the final series, Laurie. At first up against South Sydney, then Manly in the preliminary final, and again the Bulldogs on the weekend. Just shut them out of the game. As a coach, what do you do when you're throwing everything at them and just nothing seems to work?
You get games like that in all sports, and it's soul destroying because you're doing everything right. So the Bulldogs were doing everything right. Their moves were right. They were executing it fine, but everything they did just get thwarted by the Storm. And sometimes you start losing that momentum and you start thinking, we're not going to get a goal or we're going to get a try here. And it does start affecting players.
And I guess sometimes you just think that, we're getting beaten by a better side here. And this is what happened. The Storm were the better side.
Cam Smith ran for over 100 metres and 40 tackles, a massive game from him. Probably one of the biggest talking points to come out of the game was the James Graham biting incident. Butts, you may be on that judiciary panel on Thursday night. They've moved it from Wednesday so he can attend Bulldogs presentation. Obviously, you can't comment too much on that incident, but the fracas itself, were you surprised no one went to the bin or even sent off?
Oh, not really surprised. I think it was the heat of the moment and whatever else. And that was probably the last thing we needed was more of a talking point. Yeah. The biting incident itself was enough. And it's in the papers everywhere, and it's been the main talking point since the grand final. To have sent someone off or to put someone in the bin probably would have put a lot of pressure on the referees, and something that, we're not talking about anything that the referees did throughout the game.
In the lead up, it was all about video refereeing decisions. I think the ref's done the right thing. He's cooled things down. There were a few punches thrown, but it was a grand final, and I think the referee's done well to handle it, and we got a great spectacle of a game.
Well, that's 2012 wrapped up. Let's look ahead 12 months. A quick tip. Who's going to win the premiership next year, Butts?
Wow, that's big. Look, obviously the Dogs are going to be there, and the Storm, there's no doubt about it. I guess Manly, you look at the top 4 sides that were in the premiership in the preliminary finals this year. South Sydney, you'd like to see them duplicate what they did last year. That's going to be a tough ask, but I think they'll be better for the experience. Adam Reynolds will have that experience behind him of that first season. So, I'd like to see the Rabbitohs really take that next step.
I think the Sharks have fought really well. I think they'll be a massive team to look out for in 2013. Boys, let's talk about our BAM Team of the Week, the shirts. Laurie, you've got the Mariners polo on today.
The A-League starts this weekend. The Mariners play Western Sydney down in Parramatta Stadium, and we've got the Melbourne Derby opening the season off. So A-League's back, and a few big marquee signings. So things are looking good for the A-League.
And my BAM Team of the Week obviously has to be the Storm. Great effort to the boys, fantastic moment, and well done to the Storm players and Craig Bellamy for a great season.
Well, today I've got the polo on of the mighty Terrigal Matcham Bellbirds. The Central Coast cricket season begins this weekend. It's going to be a massive one for the Bellies in season 2012-13, I'm sure. Let's talk AFL now. The Swans, they've brought the flag back to Sydney for the first time since 2005. An absolutely thrilling game. Ryan O'Keefe, best on ground, the Norm Smith medalist. How did you see that one playing out, Butts?
Well, it's probably the first time I've ever watched an entire AFL game, and I've got to say I actually really enjoyed it. It was a game that just went back and forth. There were so many variances in that game. The role and the momentum that both sides got at various stages. It was just gutsy from the Swans. The fact that they were still behind by 2 goals with 10 minutes to play and to kick the last 4 goals and the way they did it. Adam Goods, I take my hat off to him because he was just phenomenal. He was on one leg there for, basically 3/4 of the game, but kicked that vital goal towards the back end of the game.
As you know and I know, you need leaders on the field, and as you said, he's playing on one leg. He's probably had a couple of needles. Him being on the field just brings out the best in other players. He goes, who leads the team round about the park, and I missed the beginning of the game, but they were down, they were behind. I thought they were gone, well gone. And then to come back and hang on the way we did, it just credit to the coaching staff. We spoke about it last year. He served his time 8.5 years as an assistant coach. He stepped up last year, great record, and hat goes off to the coaching staff. They've done an amazing job with that team, and they had a terrible record down at the G as well, so they overcame that as well.
Well, certainly experience played its part. Adam Goods, 319 games. Jude Bolton has 301 for the Swans as well, and Ryan O'Keefe, the best on ground, 257. Buddy Franklin, it was spoken about on the show last week. Steve said if they keep him to only 2 or 3 goals, the Swans probably win that game. He did only kick 3, and now we see that result with the flag back in Sydney.
It's interesting with Buddy Franklin in terms of the way he plays his game. He seems to be a much better shot on goal when he's just ad-libbing or just taking that quick shot. When he's got to line them up, he seems to stray him a lot more. But let's talk about the Swans in terms of how many outstanding performances there were. You talked about Jude Bolton, you talked about Ryan O'Keefe and his effort in picking up the Norm Smith medal. But Malcheski, there was numerous players out there. Kieran Jack, what a story that is. The son of a rugby league legend.
I saw Gary Jack's interview, and he was overwhelmed by it all as well, because he never won a grand final.
Yeah,
as an NRL player.
Well, even one of my favourites, Lewis Robert Thompson, LRT, a massive game, and it showed as well. No one in the Swans team kicked more than 2 goals. It was really a team effort.
He could be a leaguey, that bloke. I know he's got a rugby union background. I didn't know rugby union players could tackle, but he obviously that's why he went to AFL, I guess, because he was obviously too hard of a tackle.
And you've got Mike Pike, the Canadian boy who only started playing AFL 5 years ago.
And he's got plenty of criticism throughout the year. Since he's been out here, he's got plenty of criticism about his lack of ability or whatever it is. You know what? He's got a flag now to his name, and the first Canadian to do so.
Massive weekend in sport. Let's go to our BAM moment of the week. Laurie, I'll start with you.
Well, I have to go English Premier League. Pardew, the Newcastle coach, he's just signed a new 8-year contract. So, how you get an 8-year contract in professional sport, I don't know. I want to know who his manager is, but for Pardew, bam, for getting an 8-year gig.
My BAM moment of the week, the Storm and their performance, and Craig Bellamy, what an outstanding effort. Cooper Cronk, Clive Churchill medalist. It was just a perfect week for the Storm, and to them, congratulations, and BAM to you.
In true Steve Allen form, I'm sitting in his chair. I've got 2 this week, of course. The first, Shane Watson, over in the World Cup 2020 cricket tournament. Australia's played 4 games, and Shane Watson has been man of the match in all 4. He will be player of the tournament.
70 runs off 47 balls.
An outstanding innings, and it wasn't just a big bash. It was actually some really good cricket shots played there as well. So Shane Watson, bam! And my other one, John Hutchinson. Laurie, you, I guess, are very proud of this individual. Only the 3rd ever captain of the Mariners. He was named captain for the upcoming season on the weekend. So to John Hutchinson, bam! Let's move on to football now. Laurie, a few upsets in the EPL over the weekend. Take us through them.
Yeah, Spurs Tottenham beat Man United, first time in 23 years, beating them. There've been a few draws in there, but a huge win. They were up 2-0. Man United got back to 2-1, went 3-1, 3-2, and under all sorts of pressure. So great for the game. Alex Ferguson put his hand up, and you can't win every week, but that was some record to beat. Suarez got a hat-trick for Liverpool. They won 5-2. Chelsea beat Arsenal 2-1, and it was an own goal at the finish-up. So there are a lot of big results in the EPL.
Well, Liverpool's first win in the first 6 games of the Premier League season. They're sitting down in 14th, so a big job ahead for them. And the Mariners this weekend, you've already touched on it, playing Western Sydney Wanderers. Shinji Ono has arrived in Australia. What's he going to bring to the A-League? They're saying he's going to be bigger than Del Piero.
Well, hopefully he doesn't bring too much at the weekend, hopefully. So, he's a huge signing, and part of the reason getting him in is getting the Japanese TV audience. FFA could be plugging into the Japanese market. The Sydney FC games are getting talked about, getting beamed into Italy for the Del Piero. Heskey's came as well, so they're 3 huge players. Ono, attacking midfielder, scored goals, played with Japan national team. You know, he's a huge signing for the club. But the controversy comes in and goes, well, should Western Sydney have marquee players when the A-League with the FFA is funding them? So there's a bit of debate going on about that just now, but great for the game again.
Boys, that's it. BAM football. BMW.
BMW, well done, Walk. You were outstanding, and Laurie, as per usual.
Well, I'm usually Hyundai man, but I'll go with the BMW. Thanks, Bob.
That's it. Remember, check out bamfootball.tv and stay in touch with us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.